In a haka before their first game this year, Super Rugby Aupiki team Hurricanes Paua said those words, which translate to puppets of this redneck government. The haka has been met with support from some.
Well, are we surprised? I'm kind of surprised that it's taken this long for it to come to a head.
I support free speech. I support people being able to say things that I disagree with or that current government might disagree with, and that includes people who are engaged in sport.
They've got it right on the mark. There is a lot of kōrero about how this government is seen as anti-Māori, whether it's called rednecks or however it's been expressed, how we express ourselves is in our haka.
It's been met with opposition from others.
For one of the sporting teams to use the haka for personal political gains, for me, is despicable.
I noticed they came bottom of the table last year, they're bottom of the table this year. I just wish my team would start focusing on the rugby and less on the politics.
If you want to win a game, focus on the game. There's plenty of time for free speech when you leave the paddock.
And from some, embarrassment.
The Super Rugby Aupiki team CEO says he's open to apologising to the government for changing the reo of the haka.
Definitely disappointed with the process and the words that were used. It's not our place to comment positively or negatively about any political situation.
This weekend, a new haka from the team led to another round of controversy.
The women's Hurricanes team, the Poa, have doubled down, making another political comment in their pre-game haka.
Hurricanes management say the new words aren't criticising the government.
Management said the team wanted to convey a message of unity and is satisfied with the changes.
But is haka inherently political? Kia ora, I'm Tom Kitchen, and today on The Detail, should sports and politics mix? And if not, should haka even be part of our national game? Tū whenua roa Ngā Tanahira of Te Aupōuri and Ngāta Hine is a Māori news journalist for RNZ. He was the first to report on the original haka the Hurricanes Paua did this season.
The line that sort of caught the attention of the media, of course, was karetao o te kāwana kakiwhiro. Puppets of this redneck government. That's a very powerful line, and it's very explicit as well. And it was explicit by nature. And so I got tipped off. Somebody said, "Hey, look, it's going to be something spicy that's going to happen at the game this weekend. You should definitely tune in and keep your ears peeled." I didn't quite know what that meant. And so, as you do on a Saturday, found myself in front of a TV with my favourite beverage, sort of settled down to have a look, and then, the Hurricanes Paua came out fiery as with those lines. And a line that explicit, I think, is hard to miss. And, you have to mention as well that they made explicit references to Toi Tū Te Tiriti, which of course is this political movement that's sprung up or been ignited very recently by the perception of what the coalition government wants to do to Te Reo Māori and also the Treaty of Waitangi as well. And so a very pointed political statement there within the haka. I managed to get in contact with both the composer, Henewai Pomare, who I had an excellent interview with, and I think the thing I took away from that interview was that this was a very calculated, deliberate attempt to write a haka that was pointed directly at the coalition government. And indeed, when I spoke with Leilani Perese, who was the kaitātaki or the leader of the haka, her and Henewai had been friends for decades, I believe. They've been playing rugby together. Henewai also is a former rugby player, and so I think it was Leilani or perhaps a group within the Hurricanes Paua who reached out directly and said, "Hey, look, we want to take this opportunity to say something very pointed." And so they did.
And then the reaction came pretty swiftly from Hurricanes management, didn't it? Because the team told you that they had spoken to Hurricanes management and they'd okayed it, yeah?
Yeah, so I was talking to Leilani, and the question I asked Leilani was, obviously this is a very powerful haka, and it's very pointed and it's very explicit. How did you get it past management? And the line that she said to me was, she said, "We got it past them strategically." She said that, they submitted this addition to the haka quite last minute, but She said, management's got our back 100%. And then the following day, or I believe maybe it was the day after that, the chief executive of the Hurricanes came out and said, hey, look, we were blindsided by this. We respect the right for players to express themselves on an individual basis, but as a team, as a unit, you can't be sending political messages.
We've, as an organisation, created, developed a haka that is representative of us and our community, and this haka wasn't that.
And what was the reaction to that from Māori that you spoke to?
They disagree with the Hurricanes going and apologising. I think that's fair to say. And interestingly enough too, we put the question to Chris Bishop, the Minister for Sports and Recreation, what do you make of this haka? And he said,
it's over to them if they want to express themselves. Obviously I disagree. New Zealanders will make their own judgments, as will Wellington fans of the Hurricanes.
But you support them to continue to do that?
Well, it's not for me to support them exercising their free speech. If they want to do that, that's over to them.
It seems like New Zealand first have been the most opposed to it in terms of Shane Jones, Winston Peters saying, you should be worrying about the game.
I was disappointed that our young women did politicise that haka. There's a time and place, and they should focus on tackling and winning the game, not trying to score political points.
He's not there to speak, you're out there to play. People put a whole lot of money and time and investment into you, and all the infrastructure's around you for you to be successful. And that's probably why they got thrashed.
I mean, there has been that reaction, and I think when you look at the Māori reaction online particularly, I saw a poem that was written about it last night. It's been being shared around. I've seen posts just raising that question again. If they're going to take this, what is a taonga, what is an explicitly Māori art form, who gets to dictate what is said? I mean, that seems to be the general sort of
it seems like, Pākehā managers who aren't Māori are dictating what should be said.
Yes, indeed,
in a way. Yeah. So that was the reaction from some of the politicians and Hurricane senior management. But Chiefs Manawa also said something, but you haven't been able to quite figure out what they said?
Yes, indeed. So at the same time, in the same game, the Chiefs Manawa team made reference to the government as well. You can very clearly hear the word kāwanatanga being used. However, the context in which it was said and the meaning behind the haka is still unclear to us, basically because the audio quality is not very good. And so we haven't been able to figure out what they said. We've sent a request to the Chiefs Rugby Club management to just get some clarification around what was actually said, because it's very clear that there was a reference to the government, but the exact wording around it has been hard to decipher.
What have the Chiefs management told you?
Well, the Chiefs management came back with a statement that said, the Chiefs Rugby Club takes a one-team approach to everything that they do in the club, including the men's and women's team. And they said that the Chiefs Manawa karanga, prior to the haka, spoke of the importance of Te Ao Māori, and Te Ao Māori principles are integrated into the club's strategy. And so they believe that players are entitled to their views, and at the Chiefs Rugby Club, they provide an environment where individuals can be themselves by supporting the Chiefs Wahine. So,
what does that mean?
I don't know.
Did you ask them for the Chiefs for their script or anything, or what they said?
I asked for clarification around what was in the haka.
And they have kind of given you half an answer, but not the full picture.
Not quite.
So, how does politics fit into haka? And where does haka fit into sport?
It's a question that I've been trying to follow up with some haka experts, for lack of a better term, to sort of get a sense of what actually the role of haka is within rugby. It's something that I've been trying to discuss and trying to sort of decipher with some of the experts around. And one of the key responses I've gotten, and I think that Māori people know this, haka is not just a political art form. It is often used as a political art form, of course. I mean, the Hurricanes' Pauhaka is a testament to that, and many, 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 many haka before it. But it is also an expression of love, of commemoration. When you die and your tūpāpaku or your body is taken back to the marae, often when you are being taken into the whare or into the main house, people will perform a haka, not because it's a war chant and they're getting hyped up to go to battle, but it's an act of commemoration to say, hey, look, you are a person of great stature, and we're doing this to show some respect for you. It's multifaceted. Sometimes haka can be funny. Sometimes haka can be full of grievances. They can be sad. They can tell stories of events that happened 200, 300, 400 years ago. They're not always political, but this one certainly was. And so when you think about that concept, that haka is an art form, it's a form of expression, what role do rugby clubs, New Zealand Rugby, the Hurricanes, have in implementing or integrating the haka into what is essentially a show as part of their game? Is it just a little set piece that you have before the game to get everybody hyped up? Is it a tool for marketing that you use to sort of bring in foreign interest into the game? Because I think it's fair to say that, rugby here in New Zealand is very well known overseas precisely for that, for the haka. And if you're going to do that, then is that the right thing to do if it's a form of expression? Should rugby clubs dictate to teams or to composers what can be said? I think it's fair to say that the reaction from Māori is no, it's not. And so the question now is, should haka be a part of the game if it's going to have these limitations?
Well, it's been part of the game for so many years, and it's very identifiable with Aotearoa and New Zealand on the world stage. It would be hard to take it away, wouldn't it?
I think it would be very hard. It's hard to separate the haka from rugby, particularly in this country. They're so intertwined. I think it is fair to say that the haka that we've seen in the past, or the haka that we know well, kapaopango certainly, is a haka written for a purpose, to represent the country, to represent the team, to represent the All Blacks. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it was a haka written for a purpose, and it was dictated to, and that was what was wanted. But I think that, separating haka from rugby is an interesting question. I don't have the answer to it.
Well, if we've done it so successfully for years and years, and it has been apolitical, shouldn't we just have apolitical hakas so sport and politics don't mix?
There is an argument to be had there, but again, I think it goes back to that question. If you're not going to embrace the haka for what it is, right, which is a Māori art form that is often used to tell political messages, although not always, how can you, as a corporation, dictate what comes out and what is said if it is a form of expression? And some of the people I've been talking to just think it's a step too far.
Yeah, the thing is, if you get rid of haka, that could lead to more deterioration of Māori culture in the mainstream, which could destroy the point that they were trying to make in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it's a complex question. What role does haka play within rugby? Which I believe is was an unintended consequence potentially.
I mean, would you be sad to see it go?
Yeah, of course. Can you imagine a World Cup game? All Blacks are in the final. We go out there into the field, and shake hands, and then get to it. Oh, that would be grim.
Yeah. But yeah, whether it's appropriate, we have to have these hard conversations about it.
You have to have these hard conversations.
Buck Shelford was a captain of the All Blacks in the late 1980s. He's known for bringing ka mate back to the All Blacks.
It wasn't until a couple of the younger ones bailed up myself and Haka Reid and can we actually do the haka? And I said, well, the Haka said, yeah, gung ho over the years. And I basically said to him, no, we won't say yes straight away. What we'll do is we'll put it to the players, put it to the management, and if we don't get 100% buy-in, we won't be doing it. Because I don't want to see our haka bastardised by people who don't really want to do it.
He says that haka as a challenge is nothing new.
We do challenge in the hakas and in the waiatas, challenge people or what's going on during the day, that specific day, that time, and to actually get things done correctly, above board and all that sort of stuff. So we do it in our own, when we have Kapa Haka festivals, a lot of the new waiata, new haka can be written about the theme of the day, or waitangi, or, coming together as rōpū from around New Zealand to actually try and win the championship or be the best kapa haka team in New Zealand. You know, and there's the political side of it. They look at the government. They look at a lot of things. And, you know, the experts who are the judges, you know, they speak fluent Māori, and they mark on their content of what their story's about, what their what's going on during that time, and they mark on dress, mark on, you know, your performance status, everything.
So what's the point of doing haka before a match?
Well, it is basically a challenge. It's a challenge to the opposition because the haka itself, if you know the words kamate kawa, it is life, it is life, it is death, it is death. Okay? And so basically it's no different to what rugby is. Rugby is about winning and losing. And so the thing is, so ka ora, the living, ka mate, to die. And so the thing is, so if you look at it as a win-loss thing, you're there to win. So we're challenging you to win this battle.
Do you think that Hurricanes, Po, are making their haka political? Do you think, is there something wrong with that, or is it okay?
I don't see anything wrong with it.
Why?
Why? It's only a haka, you know. Well, you know, what's wrong with that? You know? It's just a challenge. It's a challenge to, you know, sometimes you can voice your opinions through haka. And so the thing is, Māori, if you're a Māori rugby team or Kawa, they've got a Māori name. Both those provinces have Māori names. So if you've got a Māori haka, challenge. Don't be scared to challenge people.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying after this that sport and politics shouldn't really mix. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, I did until I couldn't go to South Africa in 1985, and the government stopped us from going. But that was brought about by a couple of lawyers taking an injunction out against the team travelling to South Africa, representing New Zealand. And so it does get political. And so the thing is, because during those days, you know, it was apartheid. But then, you know, we see apartheid in New Zealand, not as a legal thing, but we see racism all the time in New Zealand.
Louisa Wall of Ngāti Tūwharetoa, Ngāti Hineuru and Waikato is a former Labour MP. She was also a black fern and a silver fern, representing our national sides in rugby and netball.
As a 5-year-old, I played for College Old Boys in Taupō, and that was probably my first experience of politics, having been born in the 70s, because at the end of that season, I was banned from playing rugby because rugby wasn't a game for girls.
Oh.
So I've seen a lot in my time, and particularly within rugby. So obviously this whole question about sport and politics, I mean, I would have thought that was a political statement back there, saying that women, you know, weren't strong enough, didn't have the skills, or because of our role in society, we shouldn't play rugby. So for people to say that sport and politics have never mixed, I think it's a misunderstanding of what politics is.
That's right. And even as you say that, there has been some commentary in the media as like, why should we even have women's rugby?
Are there wider learnings, as they say, in women's rugby? Because what a lot of the feedback I'm getting is this is a tenuous proposition at the best of times. It doesn't make money, it doesn't draw crowds, and so you've got a hurdle to climb in promoting and getting the sport out there and getting it popular. None of this helps.
So even that's a political statement, isn't it, without people realising?
Well, that's right. And the haka's a political statement. The haka's a political statement because it whakamanas or uplifts the Indigenous voice here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. In New Zealand putting a koru on their plane is a political statement. It's their whakamana or uplifting of Māori symbols and symbols that is representative of Aotearoa New Zealand. And I think the question should be, are the women who play for the poa, were they within their rights to express themselves within haka? And the reality of haka is haka evolve and change to express our sentiments, our feelings about what's happening at a certain point of time in time. And we do use haka to wed or to challenge, because that's what the nature of a haka is. Was something that they decided to do as a team with their management. And I think we should discuss that, the role and influence of sports people, because they are public figures, they have public profiles, and more over the years they've started to use those, but for the greater good, because they've chosen to stand up for LGBT rights, for example, or stand up against racism, which is what the whole kneeling thing is.
Out of that protest by Colin Kaepernick, 49ers quarterback knelt instead of standing during the national anthem at last night's game.
We have cops that are murdering people. We have cops in the SFPD that are blatantly racist. And those issues need to be addressed.
You talk about the haka being a wera or a challenge. Shouldn't that just be between the teams and not go off the field, though?
But none of it is about what happens on the field. Kamate kamate has got nothing to do with the opposition. That's a historic haka from Ngāti Toa, and that haka was about an Indigenous leader and his expressing a wero of challenge to what was happening in Aotearoa at the time. That's got nothing to do with who we're playing, actually. It was a haka of challenge to allow us to rise up to prepare for whoever we were going into battle with. So I think there's a lot of ignorance in this space, and I think we all need to take a hard look at what the lyrics are of all of our haka.
Well, if a haka is inherently political and we don't want to make political statements with sport, should we even have haka in sport?
I don't think the haka is the problem. The problem is some of the words that were in this haka. So we're not undermining or questioning the validity or the value or the role of haka, which is why we shouldn't be undervaluing or belittling or challenging the role of women playing rugby. I mean, that's ridiculous. And some people have dissatisfied about is that there are platforms that people are choosing to use to express their discontent about some of what is happening in our society at the moment, and unfortunately being led by the government. And so they're choosing to express their dissatisfaction in a multitude of ways. And this is just another example of the dissatisfaction, not only amongst Māoridom, but right across society about some of the choices this government is making.
Yes, so the message I'm kind of getting from you from this whole conversation is sports and politics are a natural mix. There's no way that you can't mix them.
Exactly. And it's become more so given the influence that individuals have and how we now hold them to account and want them to be good people, good role models, not practice discrimination, but be inclusive and diverse and embrace everybody. So you're absolutely right. I think that's where we're at. So people saying sport and politics don't mix, I think that's a thought from yesteryear. That is absolutely not the present or the future.
That's it for today. The Detail is funded through RNZ and NZ On Air. Thanks to Tu Whenua Roa Ngā Tanahira, Buck Shelford and Lewis Award. This episode was engineered by Mark Chesterman. It was produced by Gwen McClure and Alexia Russell. I'm Tom Kitchen. Mā te wā.